Any other public comments before the meeting starts?
Public comments?
All right.
You want to make a prayer?
Yes.
I got it.
Good afternoon, everyone. Or good evening. Clerk, if you could please call the roll.
Trustee Williams?
Here.
Trustee Sanchez?
Here.
Trustee Jones?
Here.
Trustee Lightfoot? Trustee Pepper?
Here.
Trustee Brandon?
Here.
Mayor Booker?
Here.
Quorum present at time is 7 o'clock.
All right. If we could please give an invitation from our chaplain, Pastor Weber, and everyone stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Let us bow for a word of prayer. Eternal God, our Father, we pause to thank you for allowing us time and space to convene, to conduct the people's business. We ask you to guide, lead, and direct this mayor and the board of trustees at this time as they manage the people's business. We ask you right now to clothe the entire community, God, with a spirit of peace and solidarity. We thank you in advance for the covering that's over our first responders and those that have answered the call to serve. We thank you for these things and more. It's in Jesus' name we pray. All God's people say amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I need approval of minutes from Village Board meeting of Board of Trustees, Tuesday, February 6th, 2024, amended, and Tuesday, March 5th, 2024. Motion by Trustee Sanchez, second by Trustee Brandon. If there are no questions, please call the roll.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Sanchez?
Aye.
Trustee Jones?
Aye.
Trustee Lightfoot? At 7:02. Trustee Pepper?
Aye.
Trustee Brandon?
Aye.
Mayor Booker?
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right. Looking for Ms. Banks to provide our oaths, reports, proclamations, announcements, and appointments.
Good evening, Mayor and Board of Trustees.
Good evening.
The Village of Maywood extends our deepest condolences to the families of Mr. Napoleon Watson, Mrs. Ruth Moore, Mrs. Juanita Ross, Mr. Tracy Scott, and Mrs. Karen Yarbrough, Cook County Clerk, longtime Maywood resident and wife of former Maywood Mayor Henderson Yarbrough Sr. and daughter of former Maywood Mayor-elect Don Williams. We ask that you keep all of these families in your thoughts and prayers during their time of bereavement. Proclamations and acknowledgments. Arab American Heritage Month, whereas the Village of Maywood recognizes April 2024 as Arab American Heritage Month, honoring this community's valuable contributions to our nation, state, and village in all aspects of society, setting examples of model citizens and public servants. And whereas we celebrate this year's Arab American Heritage Month theme of Arab American awareness, shining a light on the long overdue acknowledgement of this vibrant community's existence, whose heritage was only recognized since April 2021, when President Biden became the first U.S. president to issue a proclamation acknowledging the month of April as Arab American Heritage Month. Therefore, be it resolved that the Village of Maywood does hereby proclaim April 2024 as Arab American Heritage Month and calls upon the citizens of our village to observe this month with relevant programs, activities, and reflections to create a more inclusive, just, and prosperous world for all. Also, during the month of April, we recognize the importance of Autism Awareness Month, Earth Month, and Financial Literacy Month. Upcoming events. The Quinn Center will hold a health fair on Saturday, April 27th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. The Answer Inc. will have its annual walkathon on Saturday, April 27th from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Join us in raising awareness for autism by walking with Team Maywood. For more information, you can contact our Community Engagement Department or check out our website. Senior exemption assistance will be available on Saturday, April 27th for senior residents of Maywood. Appointments are required. You can call the clerk's office at 708-450-6360. Coffee with the Chief, which is hosted by and will be held at McDonald's Restaurant on First and Lake on Tuesday, April 30th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Come by and have coffee with our Chief, Chief Willis. Let's Talk Maywood will be this Thursday, April 18th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. at Miracle Revival Church at 20th and St. Charles Road. The guest speaker is Superintendent Dr. Victoria Stockton of School District 88. The Village of Maywood has close to 100 youth in School District 88 that live near the Village of Bellwood Community Line. Come and hear information on how the state of education for our elementary and middle school students. Maywood Senior Citizens Monthly Breakfast will be held this Friday, April 19th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at S2 City Grill on 10th and Roosevelt Road. The TIF Community Meeting will be held on Tuesday, April 30th at the Masonic Temple at 200 South 5th Avenue in the gymnasium for TIF areas, number 2, which is North Maywood, which starts at 6:30 p.m., and TIF number 4, which is Madison Street along 2nd to 21st Avenue to Harrison Street. That TIF meeting will start at 7:30 p.m. Our annual Village Pride Village-wide Community Beautification and Cleanup Day will be held on Saturday, May 4th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. starting at Veterans Park. You can sign up by going to bit.ly/Maywood VPBW 2024 or visit our website and you can sign up via that link. To learn more about programs and events, visit our website at maywood-il.gov or follow us on social media.
All right. A lot going on in the Village of Eternal Light. Thank you, Ms. Banks. We're going to move on to financial management reports. For A, financial report, I'll go along with B. Are there any questions for Director Satchel? All right, hearing none. Thank you, Director Satchel. Under 9, under Village President reports, it's just an update in regards to some credit card fees litigation. So we'll go into public comment. For public comment, you have 3 minutes. Provide your name, you can provide your address, and then we'll start with public comment.
Cornell Brown.
It should be a green light.
You see the green light was on. Sean.
Hello? Good afternoon. Yeah, I was here to speak up about the properties that was on Orchard Avenue, and they had to put some, they was going to demolition the properties, and that's on Orchard and Legion on the corner. And I was just here to speak up about it because I own a property over there, and I never had got a letter or anything saying that they was going to demolition the property. And I just wanted to know what's going on with that.
Legion and Orchard.
Yeah, 1200.
So we will respond to all public comment after public comment. But I got you. Cool.
Next is Peter Denez.
Yes.
So, first question is about these letters. Mr. Sanchez, Mr. Jurisic, you received those ones, but I'd like to share them with all the trustees. And of course, Mr. Cornell said we have a question, what happens with our properties, because we never got a clear answer to that letter, and that's my first one. Second, talking about the TIF. It's a very beautiful thing to you guys, but unfortunately this is going to double our property taxes, which is proven to be the way by our tax bills. And if you wish, I can show you a property tax bill for residential properties that's being taxed as a TIF, just simply because they're sitting on a commercial lot. So, as the letters are stating, you may decide to vacate more than 10 properties per street or per square. And then, once this happens, where these people are going to go? Then, on the public meeting, you guys said, okay, these are fresh money that are going to schools, libraries. Well, definitely not true. If that was true, then this money, the TIF taxes, wouldn't be separate from schools, libraries, and so on. So whatever you guys are trying to do is pretty much, you want new businesses, great. But you're guys here to bring money, not to take money from the people that already don't have money or take their homes. Because this is what ends up happening. Because this TIF is going to hit real hard, especially on the businesses. Every single business that's in here, besides the new ones, that they got the tax break or a tax freeze or whatsoever. So you guys pretty much going to purge the businesses that are already here. And whatever you're trying to do, how that makes sense. Then you're including more TIF parts of Maywood. Then you're going to be having the public comments after the fact that you want to vote tonight. This doesn't make sense. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Maya, do you need problem?
Hi everyone, my name is Maya Dimitrova, and my first question will be again for those properties in Orchard. We all have homes there. We would like to know what's going on there. The second question is about that TIF program. Now, TIF program itself is tax increment financing, but it never says that you're not going to get an increasement with $200 or $300. That basically doubles your taxes. I understand that Maywood needs fresh money probably, but this is not the right way to create TIF program or to create TIF district and make all Maywood to be TIF, because we have senior people living here. They cannot afford to pay if their taxes are $3,000 in the moment. They cannot afford to pay $6,000, because this is what TIF does. It doubles the taxes, no matter what everybody says, and I have the proof of this. Here is a property that's been TIF for about 10 years now. Every year, my taxes are plus $3,000, which is almost $7,000. So the property taxes itself are $3,000 something, and the TIF itself is another $3,000 something. And I don't believe that's fair to anyone. So when you are trying to show what your plan, what are you trying to do with this TIF, you will also have to explain to the people how the TIF will be calculating. How much money are you taking up our pockets? This is what's important. We don't only want to know what you guys are going to do with the money, we need to know how much money are you trying to get of us. Thank you and have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Hardy, Jamal?
Good evening, guys.
Good evening.
I got also some concerns about other Orchard properties and the village to be transparent on what you guys are planning to do. And my attorney also has sent a letter, so we are seeking a reply. We haven't received anything. It's been 2 weeks.
Sergeant.
Good evening. Concern again is about the TIF. Property owner for many, many years, property taxes are extremely high. Anything you guys are doing with the TIF is historically shown to increase taxes for residents. And it's important that we think about residents instead of developers, instead of people that are going to do these magical things with this TIF, especially considering TIFs have no record of being successful except in wealthy communities. Poor communities have a long record of failure. So TIF is not a good program. So please consider the residents before you consider the magic that developers will do. Consider what is here. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Lyndon Bassett.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Board of Trustees. I'm here because of a water line leak that's on my property. I confronted, talked with Powell, I believe she was a former of the water department. And here's the situation. This water line that's at 705 North First Avenue is coming from the main line on First Avenue. It's right on the corner of First and Chicago, right by the Displays River. 705 North First. And this water line is coming from the main water line that's probably in the center of First Avenue. And it's been there for years. It is not the line that feeds our home. I asked Ms. Armour Powell about it, and she said that there was no second water line that's going to my property. So it was laying dormant probably before I moved there. I've been there 29 years. So it's probably been there probably 18 years, because the house is about 8 years old. So all of a sudden this water line breaks and it's leaking. I call it trespassing on my property. The issue is, who's supposed to cut that line? Ms. Armour Paul told me to get a plumber because there's no second water line coming to your house. So she saw my water line that was actually going to my house, and she saw that there was no shut-off valve. So they immediately came about a week later and put in a shut-off valve, dug 8 feet down, and put a shut-off valve, and you can turn the water on and off. First time we had one in 29 years. But I asked about this water that's coming out. Well, maybe it's water that's coming from Des Plaines River. I said, that's not possible. And so I had to get a plumber. She told me to get a plumber. I got a plumber, got beat out of $2,500. I called another plumber because he couldn't find what was going on. And the other plumber found it, and he the one that showed me where the line was coming from. I am asking that the village will take the responsibility and cut that line from that main water line so it does not damage all of my foundation. The water been sitting there bubbling up for 5 years. I was thinking maybe it was going to go away with just running back into the dirt or something like that. But it got bigger and bigger. Then it started going against the house. And that's when I had to call, the water department to find out what was going on. This misinformation that Maywood that the village of Maywood did not have a second water line going to my house cost me nearly $5,000.
3 minutes.
I'm asking, don't let me pay more money to cut this water line. Could you please resolve this issue so I can beautify that corner? That's the first time people see when they come in Maywood. I didn't go to Oswego and Romeoville and Bolingbrook. I stayed here. Oh, I'm done. Thank you.
That concludes public comment.
Thank you, everyone. So I say, with Mr. Cornell, Mr. Denis, Maya, and Mr. Jamal. I'll let village attorney give commentary to that. I just want to make sure. You guys, we're talking about the 6 cottages, right? So how many of the cottages are actually occupied right now? Aside from the one Mr. D that you own. Is there another one occupied that I'm just not aware of?
Yeah.
There's 2 of them out of the 6 that are occupied. Okay.
I did respond to your attorney, and I let him know that I was going to follow up with staff, and then I also asked him for some follow-up information. I did not believe I've gotten that from him, but the long and short is my understanding, based on talking to staff, is there's no notice of demolition, there's no intent of demolition to demolish those properties, to acquire those properties. That's what I got from the community development department. Yeah, I mean, that's all I have.
Okay. Well, I was a part of the email that he did respond to your attorney, so I think at this point we're just waiting on a response back from your attorneys.
Mayor.
Trustee Brendan?
So yeah, I know the individuals did reach out to me as well, and to my knowledge and understanding, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. I was informed after looking into the issue as well that the notice that went out to the owners of these properties was just to identify who owned the properties because of various violations with the properties. So just to be able to have on record who owned the properties, to have those individuals who addressed some of the violations that were identified by the village. And so, from my understanding, those properties are not scheduled to be demoed, but it was just a notice that went out to those individuals as part of our, steps to be able to identify who the owner is, to be able to correct those issues that were identified by code.
Yep. If we could just get the response back from your attorneys, because I was CC'd on the email, so I have seen that. So, in regards to the TIF, I honestly would love to see the community that you're referring to. So if you could get with Ms. Banks and schedule a meeting, because I don't see any community that doubled in taxes because of TIFs. Now, if we're talking about Maywood specifically, year after year, I know we raised the levy within the village. I know that the high school district raises the levy, the park district raises the levy, the high school, middle school, elementary school raises the levy. So I know that that's an issue that we've been talking about and having discussion on. But if you could schedule a meeting with Ms. Banks to actually review a community that's been doubled simply for no other reason but TIF, that would be great. It can't possibly be Maywood because we raised the levy so many times. But again, I would love to schedule that meeting. Because again, if we're specifically talking about Maywood, up until 3 years ago, we raised the TIF. We raised our levy that had nothing to do with TIF every single year. 209 as a school district raises their TIF, their levy, every single year. The park district raises their every single year. So it can't just be the conversation of TIF. So like I said, I look forward to scheduling a conversation to discuss that more. We do have another TIF meeting coming up on the 30th to discuss TIFs more in depth. We did have conversations at the first TIF meeting that we did have, and as a community meeting where it was asked where is the performance in regards to the TIFs that we did in Maywood, and were some examples of other communities. So for our May meeting of the Let's Talk Maywood, it's literally all about TIFs, discussing what positives have happened in other communities, as well as acknowledging what TIF resulted in for the village of Maywood. There is no vote tonight for TIF. There are multiple community meetings throughout the rest of the spring. There's multiple communities meetings about the summer to discuss the TIFs. The actual vote for TIF does not come up until around August or September, praying all things goes well with the schedule. But there are multiple other meetings taking place in regards to TIF. So I don't want anybody to think that there's a vote on TIF tonight when we literally have more meetings that we are legally required to have in that discussion. So I look forward to talking about that more. For Mr. Bassett with your water line, I'm not sure. Irma retired about 3 months ago, but I don't know. I'm not sure if you've met the new director of public works, Mr. Buchanan. So again, if you can get with Ms. Banks, our director of community engagement, so that she can get you in touch with Director Buchanan, so that we can actually look into the issue. I'm sorry that you've had to go through this, but that would be something that definitely Mr. Buchanan could get taken care of for you and look into. But I do thank you for not going twice before a rodeo. Other than that, I think that's all. Okay. That said, moving into village manager report, I know we have the community development, or community engagement team available for questions, and then we have a presentation in regards to a proposal. But before we get to LRM, are there any questions before LRM?
Mayor.
Trustee Jones?
Also, just to clarify, so 11J is the actual presentation from community engagement, or if you're open to questions to that. I see the caption for that. Is that what that is?
There should be attachments in your board packet.
Yeah, I didn't see the caption for it, so.
So the rate, I'm looking.
But I'll make my comments. It was just for 2 comments.
Yeah, it's 3 attachments on it. It'll be set, so VM 12, OMD 23, VOM Park Fees 2024, Community Development Org Chart. Yeah.
Is that on the website?
You're on the website, board book has the attachment to it for whatever reason on the website. I'm on the website right now. I don't see it on the website.
Yeah, that's where
It's
I go.
definitely important.
I mean, we pay for access to board books, I just log into board book. But for you, trustee, if you go into board book, there's 3 attachments in there.
Okay, I mean, that's no big deal. We just want to make sure those things make it to, we want the public to see those things as well, not just us.
Yeah.
But my comments are regarding I'm sorry, I was scrolling, so I lost my place. The village policies review section. So you are correct. This is in Jim's summary.
Which
It's the first one. It's the village manager's report.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's under,
A.
yes, and under village policies review. So there was some conversation at our last meeting regarding different policies. One that came up during our conversation was the charitable donations conversation. And so I did receive a response from, I believe it was the finance director, or someone gave me, the village has a current donation policy. Or, I'm sorry, sorry about that. And so, as we continue to talk about this, because I did want to entertain Trustee Sanchez's feedback or how I understood it as it relates to ARPA resources, and that we should create a criteria for local businesses in the community to be able to apply, create a criteria, and then we go that way. I did want to entertain that, but I did want to clarify some things. I did want to ask a question in terms of grants in general and how we think about donation policy, because I thought the framing of the question was just not applicable, because grants already have criteria that come with it. And so I didn't see the allowable use as a donation, but it's really just allowable use of the resources. And so we would just follow that criteria, create, even if it's just strictly for ARPA, its own thing, but that's a one-time thing. We have a donation policy, we can keep it the way it is. My stance was that I don't think the donation policy applies to ARPA, because ARPA, it's not donations, it's allowable uses that have been, there's allowable uses that are already designated. So if we want to come up with some sort of program or some sort of initiative, I'm cool with that, but I guess I just wanted to make sure to clarify that I'm not utilizing the donation policy or I'm not going to amend the donation policy to work on this. We're going to work on it, but there's already an ARPA criteria. I just want to make sure, whether it be Attorney Ruzick, that I'm on the same page of my understanding that donation policies and grants aren't, like, you don't apply a donation policy to grants. That's what makes sure I'm on the right page with it.
So, trustee, I would say this is something definitely for you guys to hash out in the ordinance and policy committee. Ultimately, the conversation, and correct me if I'm wrong, trustee Sanchez or anybody that was a part of the conversation, is while there is a legal statement in regards to what's allowable versus what's not allowable, there is zero protocol, even just a form to be filled out when it comes to why did you give to this organization versus this organization. What makes this organization eligible to get 100,000? What makes this organization eligible to get 10,000? So I think the conversation was putting together actual parameter of what is the thought process and how do we come to the conclusion that of all of the different organizations that want money from the Village of Maywood, that we chose to say yes to this one, but no to the other 10. So that's why that's in your committee of ordinance and policy with you and trustee Williams. So I think that that's the spirit of the question that we're waiting on the answer for. If I'm mistaken.
Well, I wanted, or Attorney Druzy, do you have anything about my question in terms of like a policy that needs to be created? I agree with the mayor somewhat, that I'm willing to entertain that there be some sort of public criteria, and people would know how to apply for this or what have you. Even if we start over, like even if we erase what the presentation was, but we got to that because we had community engagement through our finance committee, and that was just a recommendation that we gave, and then it was approved by the board. That's how we got there. It was just essentially it was our discretion. It was the discretion of the board ultimately to approve it based on the criteria. I still believe that's the nature of it, and with the criteria. I just want to go into it. I don't need to look at this donation thing. We can just look at this from there's allowable uses, come up with a criteria, and then present it to the board, and then we can agree that's the method in which communities or organizations can apply to those resources. Drew, I want to get your thoughts on that. I'm thinking about that, right?
Sure.
Very brief comment. If you could walk away from, step back from the word donation and not use that, that isn't kind of the right vehicle or word to use. We adopted a public use of funds ordinance. It's in our code. That really drives what we're talking about here.
Okay.
As a municipality, you have public funds, right, to spend. You're limited by the Illinois Constitution, which has a provision that says public funds are not supposed to be used for private purposes. Even a nonprofit is a private purpose. You also have the economic development statute, part of the Illinois Municipal Code. It allows you to spend private money on certain private things as long as there's essentially an investment in the community, an investment in infrastructure, an investment that's going to make the community overall better, enhance it. So the village back in the day used to give donations to churches for various things. And that's where we came up with this policy, because that wasn't consistent with the Illinois Constitution and Illinois state law. We now have a policy that says we use public funds in these ways. When they support community events, they support village initiatives where the village is a co-sponsor or a supporter of the event. We have our facade program, business investment program. Those are the grant type programs where these public funds get funneled into supporting initiatives for residents, businesses, nonprofits, and the community. I'd love to come to the trustee committee and chat about it. We already have kind of guardrails in place with our current ordinance in terms of criteria like you're talking about in forms to submit that the mayor mentioned. I think that's maybe the next step in what we're talking about. But if we could move away from the word donation.
Yeah, I didn't bring that.
No, I know.
That's why I've been a stickler about let's throw that out. So my last comment will be on this. I've seen other communities like the Village of Oak Park, for instance, they utilize ARPA resources to support the way back in and their infrastructure bill for things like housing, and also organizations like Visit Oak Park, Tourism Bureau.
Right nexus coming back to the village.
Yes, exactly. And I believe there's opportunities in the village to utilize that art instrument in that same way that we haven't done. And so that was my comment there. So that's it. Thank you.
All right. So thank you, trustee. And moving regarding the motion of approval of rates of the village-owned parks, facilities, and green space. So, that is 11L. So, again, the actual rates are in board book. Maybe we have
That's what the community development org chart for that presentation, it dropped it instead. Yeah, it was dropped into the wrong one.
it's under the
Yeah, but this one was, I believe, was the one meant for the presentation.
Okay, so on the village website, if you go to the agenda, it is under 11L. And it should have been under 11J. So the documents for 11J are on 11L.
Yeah.
It's on the website for the village, for everybody to be able to view right now, and it's in board books, but because like the village website is board books, that's what it is. But you most certainly can look at it. But 11J, K, and L all are pretty much in regards to the community engagement work that they're doing.
And the attachments are under,
It's under 11L. So under 11L, you'll see 3 different attachments. So everything that says under the motion to approve the rates for the village-owned parks, facilities, and green space, you'll see the fees, you'll see the org chart, and then you'll see the different attachments in regards to policy.
is there,
So Ms. Banks is here if you have any questions. But really, tonight what we're approving are the actual rates for the green space and for the facilities. So, do you have any questions in regards to the different rates?
I mean, I don't have any input because I haven't even had a chance to review it, and so,
It's been on the board packet.
and did you just say that it's located in the wrong section of the board packet? Because
No,
normally,
it's still under the same section. It's
but-
just instead of
normally it will be
11J,
under-
it's 11L.
normally will be under the item in which, it's supposed to be under, so that's what I'm saying.
Everybody just wants to take a moment to look at the rates.
The rates are
The rates are
under the
right.
right category. So 11L is regarding the rates. The rates attachment is in that section. The only thing that is also included in that section is the org chart that was part of the presentation that Ms. Banks is going to give us when we're completed with this. So the rates and the copy of the original use policy are both under the 11L where they were supposed to be.
And then trustee Lightford, who is page 531. So in regards to rates for green space use or facilities use, that's what we're going on tonight. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Banks?
I don't have a question about the rates, but I do have a question about the facilities use, if you don't mind.
Trustee Jones?
So, under like the umbrella, I know there's going to be some community engagement events, or more like programs. From a Parks and Recs perspective, we're going to be renting space. Are we going to be shepherding any actual like outdoor recreational programs?
When you say shepherding,
Like, are those going to be like in-house programs? Like, are any of those happening, or is it just if people want to rent the space, but we're not going to be connected with any like little leagues, or like we're not doing that, right?
you know, we won't be connected with any little leagues, but they can rent the parks for the baseball fields for that purpose.
And I guess one thing I will say is, after having a conversation with the new director for the Maywood Park District, he is in top conversation specifically for the Little League for baseball, with the Sox to bring the right, so he's in conversation with that. And he has a few other things they're working on their calendar and their budget right now to coordinate with Ms. Banks. And Ms. Banks and the team have been over there communicating with them. But that would be either the park district resident Or give an example like Banker's Basketball League, he runs it, or like the volleyball, it's a parent grant company. It's just the coordination, payment, and the security.
Okay, I was just asking, just like I can maybe level set on, so I get the rate as far as the expectation in terms of programming for residents. So there are programs that are offered that you just kind of mentioned. They're going to be predominantly inside the 200s building, but in terms of Parks and Rec programming in-house, we're not offering any programming, but however, we'll be managing the scheduling of the facilities.
Mayor. Trustee Williams.
Trustee Jones, is there any plans in the future to try to house some of these events in-house?
For like baseball,
Baseball,
things
Little
like
League,
that.
baseball, football.
Bucks,
Yeah.
Bucks before the 80s.
Well, I can't speak to that right now, but I know we're, like you said, we're trying to work with the Maywood Park District. We don't want to overstep on the things that they've already put in place, and we want to support them as much as we can. As we mentioned, we're not a park district, so we don't want to, start doing Little League and things like that, but we want to make sure that they do have a space, because they currently do not have, the facilities in order to do that, so.
So in other words, this is a placeholder that's until we kind of get to August and kind of revisit these conversations about transferring. I guess I'm just, what I want to make sure, I guess like I kind of try to take a step back with maybe Trustee Williams might be getting into. I'm just trying to think about like, when it comes to Parks and Recs in the village of Maywood, period. When the community thinks about it, how should they be thinking about it? Who should I be reaching out to if I have a 7 or 8 years old? Like, how should they be thinking? Like, should they be reaching out to the park district for those programs? And I do know there's like, it sounds like there is some synergy and we're working on it. But what should people walk away from now? We have the rates, but in terms of like, if I have a youth and they're interested in these type of programs, is that some of the stuff that we're doing, some of the stuff the park district is doing, like how should if the resident is saying, okay, I got a 7-year-old, I got a 9-year-old, what should I do? Like, what would be your what would be your response?
So you get phone calls saying that my son is interested or my daughter is interested in basketball.
Yeah.
They're 7 years old. We know that DECA Basketball League is at the 200 building, so we put them in touch with him and his program. So we do help, we do bridge that gap. So if people are interested in volleyball, we connect them with Dynasty Volleyball, those type of things. So if a parent wants to have a birthday party in the park, we'll connect them with one of our parks that's kid-friendly, top-friendly, one of our top lots, and provide that space for them to rent to have a birthday party or something.
Mayor. Trustee Sanchez.
Are these organizations attached to our website, or is it even legal to put these organizations on our website? Where like if you have a question for basketball, go on our website, there's Danka's Basketball League that is an organization that
We do have some of those youth organizations on our website, and we also share a lot of their programming and things when we share things up with the community. Of course, if there's more that we can do to continue to promote, but yes.
Is this the village website or is this the Healthy Maywood website?
This is the Village of Maywood.
website that the banks mentioned.
The Village of Maywood website.
All right, so before we get to our next presentation, do you have any other questions? Thank you, thanks. All right, so there is a status report regarding presentation on letter of intent and proposal for purchase of land and building and redevelopment of former golf driving range located at 30 Madison Street by J3 Design and Development Incorporated, which is the
Cooperative solution.
Cooperative Solutions. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, trustees, village manager, Maywood residents. My name is Jeff Eaton, and I am a permanent resident of Maywood, 1630 South 16th. I'm celebrating 50 years in the community as of tomorrow, and my family has been in Maywood for over 60 years. My grandfather's Charlie Green, Sixton School is named after him. His name is on the cornerstone of Proviso East. I'm also a commissioner, a newly appointed commissioner with the Maywood Park District, and president of Cooperative Solutions Group. We are a strategic consulting and management firm. You can go to slide 2. We are a strategic consulting and management firm. We create and execute plans primarily in the food, beverage, and entertainment space to help our clients start and grow their businesses. Some of our clients have included Meridian Street Beverage, makers of Carnival XO and owned by R&B singer Babyface, Harold Washington Cultural Center, 1,000-seat theater in Bronzeville, run by Executive Director Jim Tillman, whose mom is Mrs. Tillman, former councilwoman in Chicago. Tavern on the Grange, a restaurant and bar live entertainment venue in Countryside, Kenny's Ribs and Dusty's Buffet, as well as Windy City Ribs and Whiskey. But today we're here on behalf of our client, Mr. Greg Walker, owner of Casa de Puro Cigar Lounge and the proposed buyer for 30 Madison Street. Mr. Walker hired us to not only build a plan to reimagine the former Bushwood Golf Practice Center, but to operate the new business as well. With that said, I'd like to present the plan that we developed for Mr. Walker that is in conjunction with the letter of intent that was previously submitted. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. All right, so here we go. During this presentation, I'll lay out the strategic plan, the financial benefits, and community impacts of revitalizing a cherished local asset, enhancing Maywood's economic landscape, and providing new recreational opportunities for the residents of Maywood. Our mission first is to revitalize the property by activating the dormant property into a thriving business, offering a unique, engaging experience by integrating entertainment with a state-of-the-art golf driving range that caters to all ages and abilities. Next is to create an economic catalyst that drives economic activity and growth in Maywood through increased visitor traffic, job creation, significant new tax revenues, and enhanced real estate values. We also plan to improve accessibility and inclusivity in golf by making golf a more accessible and enjoyable recreational option while welcoming individuals from all walks of life and creating a space where diversity is celebrated. With that, we want to foster community engagement by establishing a central gathering place that builds strong community bonds through events, activities, and initiatives, encourages local participation and pride, and promotes social interaction among our residents and visitors. We also want to create employment opportunities with 100+ jobs in careers in entertainment, hospitality, management, and other career fields. Our vision for the park at 30 Madison is a world-class, state-of-the-art, off-course golf driving range and live entertainment venue inspired by the success of modern, interactive golf ranges like Topgolf. The park at 30 Madison will be a vibrant social hub that revitalizes the area, attracts visitors from across the Chicagoland area, and becomes a cornerstone of community pride. Once fully renovated, the park will feature 18,000 square foot restaurant and bar, where the current clubhouse is located, a 45,000 square foot live entertainment space that can accommodate up to 6,600 guests, a golf driving range with interactive technology powered by Topgolf's Top Tracer technology, and a modern air-supported dome that will allow for year-round operations. Before taking on this monumental task, the first thing we completed was a market analysis, and what we found is that there's an increasing demand for experiential entertainment like what we're proposing. Growth in golf participation has been especially large amongst millennials and Gen Z, and there's a rising interest in casual dining experiences with entertainment options. The park will capitalize on each of these separate and distinct trends. We will pair outstanding food and beverage with a climate-controlled hitting bays and music that creates a non-intimidating social and fun version of golf that is undeniable. Top golf locations, for example, draw large audiences and regularly have multiple hour wait times, especially on weekends. We also found that more people now play golf in the USA off course than they do on course. On course golf participation in 2022 was about 25.6 million golfers, while off course golf activities were about 27.9 million. It's the first time off course golf has exceeded on course. That trend is attributed to the advancement in technology and increased accessibility. Within 10 miles of Bushwood, there are no other off-course golf driving ranges. We estimate that in that same space, there are about 455,000 golfers who are closer to Maywood than they are to similar structures in Schaumburg, Naperville, Des Plaines, or even Bolingbrook. In the winter months, the facilities in Naperville, Schaumburg, and Des Plaines do not have a dome, so attendance at those facilities drops by up to 95% during cold winter months. Those players traditionally move indoors or find other options, and we believe that we can tap into that audience as well. Also, since Bushwood closed, golf range technology has advanced tremendously. Off-course range operations like Top Golf, Top Tracer offer high-tech point-scoring golf games for players of all skill levels that everyone can enjoy, making the game more accessible. These off-course ranges, especially those equipped with this technology, offer a very low cost of participation, given that there's no need for expensive equipment, as the equipment is included in hourly rates, which can be as low as $0 per hour per person. From all this information, we developed a profile for a typical customer that will frequent the park. Potential guests at the park are bored with traditional entertainment or dining options, have limited opportunities for golfing due to weather or daylight limitations, have difficulty finding a venue that caters to diverse groups and interests of ages. They're tired of mediocre food or dining experiences and a lack of entertainment. They seek novel and enjoyable entertainment experience, and they look for a casual or competitive golf experience that can be enjoyed regardless of weather conditions. Realizing the demand for a business like the Park at 30 Madison, we also had to understand the challenges with getting such a business open, including Illinois EPA considerations. Currently, there's a clay cap that covers the golf course, which is a former landfill. The Illinois EPA agency reports that the soil is not stable enough for development on the south end of the property, and that the property is only usable as a driving range. There's also the challenge associated with taxes. While the former taxes were abated when the Cook County Land Bank took possession of the property, and the village of Maywood is exempt from those taxes on that property, it is likely that with the transfer of the property to a private owner and redevelopment, the real estate taxes will be as high, if not higher, than they previously were. Opening up this business also has a challenge as it pertains to seasonality. The range is limited right now to just seasonal use, thus reducing revenues off-season November through April. There's also a challenge related to the capital improvement costs. The potential capital improvements of $6.4 million make running a range using the bucket of ball business model cost prohibitive. For those of you that don't know, a bucket of balls model is simply, I go buy a bucket of 100 balls for $17 and I can stand out on the range and hit those balls as long as I choose. That's not a very feasible way of doing business nowadays, especially when property taxes for that space hit up to $370,000 a year. Then there's the issue of accessibility. From 2003 to 2018, the number of golfers in the U.S. declined, and so went the same for customers at golf ranges. The decline was in part a function of the high cost of playing, the difficulty of courses, and the game's incompatibility with contemporary lifestyles. Parking is also a large issue. The site alone does not have ample parking to accommodate the number of potential guests. We came up with a strategy to address each of those challenges. And so with a clear understanding of those challenges, here's what we came up with. First, we will operate a very different business model than the previous ownership by adding food, beverage, merchandise, entertainment, advertising, sponsorship, and rental fees that will support a financially viable business. We will also apply for the following tax incentives with the village's support. Cook County Class 7A tax incentive, State of Illinois investment tax credits, State of Illinois jobs tax credits, as well as State of Illinois utility tax exemptions. To address the issue of seasonality, we plan to reinstall the once air-supported dome that covered the range in order to take advantage of the full calendar year for golfing and entertainment. To address the issue of improvement costs, we plan to build the park in phases, investing approximately $800,000 to launch, another $1 million to add the dome, another $1.5 million to add poles and netting, and over $2.5 million to expand the existing clubhouse. With that, to make golf more accessible, we will be bringing the cost to play down to as little as $0. When guests come to play at the park, they'll have access to all the tools needed to play, included in their rental fees that can be as low as $0 an hour with promotional incentives. And what I mean by that is one of the offers that we can make, especially if we want to talk about adding more recreation for children, is offering $50 gift cards that cover the cost of rental fees during the slower periods at the range so that everybody can enjoy golf the same. With regards to parking, in addition to the 50 spaces available on premise, we have identified local businesses and government entities that have parking spaces available but not used during our peak hours of operation. For example, the CTA Blue Line offers paid parking for well over 500 cars. For parking lots more than 2 blocks from the venue, we intend to hire a local transportation company to provide shuttle services to and from the venue. One of the issues that we didn't address previously in the challenges section of this presentation is what happens in the event that another pandemic happens. In the event of a pandemic along the scales of the COVID-19 crisis, the park is prepared to implement safety measures that will allow limited but continued operations. The park is prepared to implement the following non-exhaustive set of safety measures, including reduced outdoor capacity, social distancing exceeding government standards, robotic food delivery on premise, online ordering and curbside food pickup, as well as extensive sanitizing procedures. With all of those things said, our business structure is a little bit different than most. We are not going into this as a single entity that owns both land and businesses. In fact, what will happen is the real estate will be purchased by a yet-to-be-formed company called 30 Madison Street LLC that will own the real estate. Bushwood Reimagine LLC, which will be doing business as the Park at 30 Madison, will own the restaurant, bar, and the golf driving range business. And then a third company, the MAG Group, which does business as weekend entertainment, will produce and promote events on the premises. The park will generate revenue from the following sources, which also is non-exhaustive. The park will offer a range of cuisine, including appetizers, entrees, and snacks catering to diverse tastes and dietary restrictions. We will launch with outdoor dining during peak seasons, which run from May through October. Then we will offer indoor dining under the dome during off-peak season, November through April. During special events, and we categorize special events as any event over 500 people, we will identify food trucks from across the Chicagoland area with preference given to food trucks from Maywood. We plan to charge local vendors to park their trucks in those spaces. We anticipate guests will consume on average $15 per person for larger events and $40 per person for smaller events, depending on the day and time of day. For our beverage operations, during normal hours, we'll carry a full selection of alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages. During special events, the park will offer a selection of bottled alcoholic beverages that will be served in red plastic cups and non-alcoholic beverages served in clear plastic cups for safety and security reasons. We also have a revenue stream coming directly from the golf driving range itself. Those two fees are the membership fees. So every new guest pays a one-time membership fee of $5, and those fees do not begin until the driving operations begin in phase 2. There are also range fees. Guests pay an hourly rate of $0 to $60 per hour to play on the range, and that $60 rate is for a group of up to 6 people. And so for a 2-hour time period, the average group on a Friday or Saturday night will pay about $20 per person to enjoy 2 hours of golfing. We also have live entertainment as a potential income stream, again through food and beverage. The entertainment that we intend to bring to the range includes a 90s and 2000s hip-hop show with special guests. Again, this is not rap, this is not hardcore drill music, this is common sense, thought-provoking hip-hop music. There's Red Cup Karaoke, which is a monthly karaoke event with celebrity guests. There's Versus with the Opal Staple Orchestra, who's actually in the building this evening. They'll perform covers of 2 of R&B's most iconic artists with special guests. And then there's Comedy Under the Stars, where we bring in local, regional, and national comedians from all over the world. Admissions for these events will start at $5.50 per ticket. We also generate revenue from merchandise, advertising and sponsorship, and potentially private events. So how does all this get paid for? As we build the park, we're going to do so in phases in order to get guest feedback on improvements, as well as to minimize the financial risk to the investors. In phase 1, which will hopefully begin with your approval in May 2024, will include the acquisition and renovation of the property for use as restaurant, bar, and live entertainment. The budget for that is about $805,000. The source of the funds, our investor is $230,000 and is taking out debt in the amount of $525,000. Phase 2 is November of 2024, where we will see the installation of the air-supported dome and the launch of the golf driving range operations indoors. The budget for that is approximately $1.1 million. Again, the investor is providing those funds. Phase 3 should happen roughly around May 2025 with the installation of poles and netting outdoors to support the outdoor driving range operations. The budget for that is about $1.5 million, which will come in part from reinvestment from revenues generated prior, as well as the investment. Phase 5, which is the last phase, should approximately happen around May 2026. On that phase, we will look at the expansion of the existing clubhouse from 3,000 square feet to 18,000 square feet on 3 levels. The 3rd level will be a rooftop with a retractable glass enclosure. The budget for that is roughly $3 million. The source of funds at that point would likely be an SBA loan. Next slide. So if we look at the projected financials over just the performer over the next 3 years, this first year, which is a partial year, we expect to generate about $3.5 million in revenue with $2.9 million in expenses to see a net profit of $566,000, and that is before debt service. The second year, which will be our first full year, we expect to see revenues of about $7 million with expenses of about $5.9 and a net profit of $1.1 million, EBITDA of $1.1 million again before debt service. In that 3rd year, with the expansion of the clubhouse, we expect those revenues to go up to about $8.5 million, with about $7 million in expenses and about $1.35 million EBITDA. With all of these people and money being generated, one of the bigger concerns that we have to make sure that we are being responsible for is public safety. And so with the launch and operation of the park, we realize we have that responsibility to preserve the public safety. So we will create a comprehensive public safety plan that will include, but is not limited to, the following. Number 1, village notice. We will provide the village of Maywood with a minimum of 30 days notice for large events. This will provide the park and the village ample time to coordinate public safety measures. Traffic control. Number 2, the park will request the assistance of Maywood Police, River Grove Police, and Homeland Security during special events for the traffic control around the venue. Number 3, crowd control. The park will hire security at a ratio of 1 security per person per 100 guests during normal hours of operation, for up to 500 guests at one time, and at a ratio of 1 security person per 75 guests during special events. The makeup of that crowd control element will consist of a combination of law enforcement, private security firm that is licensed, bonded, and insured, paid staff, as well as volunteers. We also intend to make sure that there's medical assistance available on the park by hiring a private ambulance service to provide emergency medical assistance in the event that it's needed. With fire safety, the park will be equipped with a number of fire extinguishing devices and will staff at least 10 members who have been trained to use these devices during special events. And then last but not least, the thing that none of us want to hope ever happens, but we have to be prepared for, is active shooter and mass casualty plans. The park will work in conjunction with the Maywood Police Department, Maywood Fire Department, and paramedics, Homeland Security, and other local law enforcement to create a plan for an active shooter or mass casualty situation. This part is particularly important to me, given my background as a military intelligence officer and creating safety plans for troops. It's something that I know that at the end of the day we have to plan for the worst, even though we hope that it never happens. In order to attract and retain customers, we'll focus primarily on 4 central points. Cooperative ownership, and this is the part that should excite some people. We plan to actually allow a number of members of the community and people in our networks to have a part ownership in the entertainment side of the business that happens on the range. This cooperative will produce and promote events at the park, and the cooperative will also be able to buy an ownership stake later in the real estate and restaurant golf businesses. We also intend to identify various community partnerships, collaborating with local businesses, schools, and other organizations, including offering the park for fundraisers. Again, one of the tools that we have available to us is offering, for example, a $50 gift card for range fees that any organization that applies will be able to get a certain number of those cards and be able to sell them to their followers at a discounted rate to be able to raise funds for their organizations. Promotions, we will use a comprehensive set of promotional tools to increase awareness about the park, including but not limited to our website, our online business directories and review sites, social media ads and influencers, geofencing, billboards, radio, and others. With all of that, we will focus on a data-driven marketing plan, specifically collecting guest data to be used for retargeting, especially soliciting guests celebrating an upcoming birthday. With all that, we have 3 key goals. First, our goal is to reduce the barriers that make golf inaccessible by so many people. In doing so, we want to make golf more inclusive. By making golf more accessible and inclusive, adding entertainment to our offering, and being able to operate year-round, we project annual attendance of over 400,000 guests. That 400,000 guests is a unique 109,000 people. With that, we expect to have a significant positive impact on the community. One, by activating the dormant village asset and making it a gem in the community. The park will also add a youth workforce development program that will provide youth with opportunities to learn about and secure careers in food and beverage, entertainment, marketing, and several other career fields. We will also create jobs, up to 100 part-time jobs and career opportunities in those same spaces. The other impact is that with the sale of this property, the sale will generate a new sizable source of fees and taxes for the village of Maywood. In addition to real estate taxes, the village of Maywood will also receive revenues from construction permit fees, license fees, and sales taxes. The park will also drive additional awareness about the residential and commercial opportunities that are available in the village of Maywood as a result of the increased traffic from visitors from across the Chicagoland area. And finally, the park will introduce more black and brown players of all ages and income to the sport of golf. In closing, our aim is to make the park at 30 Madison the premier destination for golfers and entertainment seekers alike, setting new standards for leisure, recreation, and socialization in the community that we serve. The park at 30 Madison will be a dynamic and immersive experience that appeals to a diverse audience. With a strategic combination of cutting-edge technology, exceptional hospitality, and innovative marketing strategies, we are confident in our ability to sustain a successful and sustainable business venture that will become a cornerstone of leisure and recreation in the village of Maywood. That said, we are asking that the village approves the sale of 30 Madison to our investor so that we can give new life to the property and add some new life to the community. That said, we are hopeful for your approval, and we look forward to working with the village to get the park at 30 Madison open sooner than later. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Trustee Visser,
Some reminders, this tonight is not the approval of the sale. What will be discussed in closed session is authorizing community engagement and our legal team to work to put together the redevelopment agreement, and that will come back to the village board if we go in favor of that. And then at that time, we would have to have a community public hearing as well. So there'll be a community public hearing if this goes through, as well as this would give us the opportunity to look at what the actual redevelopment agreement would look like to get to the sale. And with that, if you have any questions?
Yeah.
Trustee Brandon?
Yeah, I don't really have any questions. My concerns are all really legal concerns. I was born here. I was here during the time frame when we acquired this property from the Cook County Land Bank. And I do have some concerns as it relates to the village, taking the right steps as it relates to I guess selling this property. I wasn't even under the impression, that's why I had to ask the village attorney, that the village even had the authority to sell the property because of how we got it from the Cook County Land Bank. And Attorney Jeruzik told me something different this evening in regards to what I remember when the village had acquired this property from the Cook County Land Bank, and how we had acquired the property. And so, for me, it's just about making sure that, okay, so if we were able to sell this property, we should have been marketing the property for whomever may be interested in developing the property. So the property has been really not marketed by the village. No one knew that the property was even for sale. And now we're here selling the property because from my understanding, from how we got to the Cook County Land Bank, the village could not sell this particular property because of how we got it and the back old taxes, which was like over $1 billion something in taxes owed on this particular property. And so my concerns again are all just legal, and what I'm requesting this evening is for a copy of the agreement that we made to the Cook County Land Bank as it relates to this property, and then what Jeruzik told me this evening in regards to the information, I guess, that he found out that I guess there's a loophole in regards to us being able to sell the property. And I think it's incumbent on this board that we do our due diligence with any properties that we own and making sure that we're being transparent and operating in a spirit of transparency as well. So if we're able to sell the property most certainly should have been marketed to the general public, to let the general public know that, hey, this property is for sale, that the village of Maywood owns, so that we could have, multiple proposals in front of us, versus just one proposal that we have. And so I just think there are some additional steps that this board should be taking in the spirit of transparency as it relates to this particular property, because no one knew up until, really today, because I had asked Jeruzik at our last meeting when we brought the conversation up originally about the agreement which we had entered into with the Cook County Land Bank as it relates to this property. So I do have concerns, but they're not really concerned to the project. I am most certainly happy to see something done with the property, but just going back to what my memory tells me in regards to this particular property, how we got it, how it became in the village of Maywood's wheelhouse, and the back road taxes that were cleared up by the Cook County Land Bank, which was over $1 million something, and us making sure that we are, transparent with the whole process. If we're going to sell it, it needs to be marketed. It wasn't marketed. It wasn't known that the property was even for sale, and it just seems to me to be a little bit. I want to be careful with my words, but just not transparent. And so just want to make sure that it's an open process and it's clear of how we arrive, wherever we arrive as it relates to the particular property, and making sure that, all of those I's are dotted and T's are crossed. And I would like to most certainly see the agreement that we had with the Cook County Land Bank, because I was present at the meeting, and a part of the conversation, it was made very clear to us. And I just want to have all of that information, Jerusalem.
All right. Thank you for that, trustee. I just want to provide a few different points of clarity. That agreement that was voted on, it's in board books. So you can research that by just logging into board books and retrieve that agreement. But I'm sure Attorney Jerusalem can get that over to you, but it's available to you right now if you log into board books. The other thing that I will say is, you can't say that we're just finding out that the property was for sale today. The reason that they are here today is because as a board, we unanimously agreed on their letter of intent. They would not have invested the money into the architectural designs. They would not have invested the time that they went into had the board not agreed to the letter of intent for the purchase. So tonight, they are bringing before us, based on their letter of intent to purchase, after they have given their full entire presentation that is now viewable to the public, that now anybody can go on YouTube and look at, what we asked for, which is the presentation to agree for them to go into the conversation of redevelopment agreement and what that would look like. So from that type of thought process, again, I think, can we stick the questions to, do we have questions for the actual developer, investor, or property owner? Because your questions are more so closed session conversations, and your conversations are more so something that could have been asked well before this meeting, not in front of them. So I think the reality is, okay, I think the reality is, there's been a month since the previous board meeting where we did a letter of intent, and we all agreed to the letter of intent. So I think we got to make sure when we're having these types of conversations that we're not having them in front of somebody willing to invest in the village of Maywood, but actually reaching out to the staff members and to our legal team prior to that. Because the reality is, we agreed to the letter of intent, which caused them to then invest money into this presentation, into the property build out, into making sure that finances were able to put forth of saying this is a viable project for them. So I think had you said that at that time, it might be a little different. And that's what I'll just leave it as. But again, I want us to, like, do we have questions for the developer or the team?
Mayor.
Trustee Brown.
Yes, so I just want to provide a point of clarity for you. I don't know if you were paying attention when I asked the attorney the questions and concerns that I had this evening, and those questions and concerns remain the same. And so, again, I don't know if you were listening or paying attention when I had these concerns and brought these concerns up, and I was, looking for a response when I asked the questions, and the attorney stated that he would get back to me in regards to the concerns, and so the concern is still the same. And so I did ask questions at the appropriate time.
You walked over.
No. See, you're misinformed again. I asked the question when this was initially brought up, because as I stated earlier, I was part of the conversations as it related to this particular property. And I was very well aware of what the agreement was that was made with the Cookout Land. I got my answer to this evening, which I could have gotten earlier, but I'll continue to get the clarity that I need as you stated. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor. Trustee Sanchez. I have a question, but it might not be for folks wanting to purchase. The clay cap, you said something that is weak on the south end?
No, there's no clay cap on the south end. The south end is all natural grass. The clay cap only sits on the astroturf portion. I can actually show you.
So because there is no clay cap, and would there be an issue that you can't build on top of where the green space is?
Right, you can't build on anything north of the south of the steel and concrete deck structure. So the north end, there's a clubhouse, then right in front of the clubhouse is the concrete and steel structure, and then everything else after that is either turf or natural grass. The turf, which has these weird numbers on it, that part is a clay cap. It's a 3-foot clay cap that can't be penetrated. And then beyond that is natural grass and terrain that cannot be built on top of. It's something related to the Des Plaines River running underneath.
So will you have folks sitting on the grass looking towards the clubhouse for entertainment?
That's correct. It can be used for those purposes.
Mayor.
Trustee Brandon.
The question, has the Community Development Department did any work in regards to an analysis of, the potential impact, financial impact of the village in regards to the development project?
So the impact and all that goes into the actual RDA agreement report. They have the information from the developer, and then we receive the EPA reports, the evaluation of property sale price, thought process. But again, that's what the meeting is for tonight. Set sale price and then agree to have them draft the RDA agreement so that then we can review it.
So staff hasn't been, economic development hasn't been
They have all of the information that they need to move this forward. We have to, as a board, agree to say, yes, staff, yes, legal, please draft the agreement so that we can actually look at what the agreement that we would vote on would be. And then that's what the public hearing is, because then the public would be able to see that as well. So until staff or legal has direction of pursuing this as an actual agreement, we are listening to what their proposal is.
So it hasn't been added by community development or anything like that?
A redevelopment agreement has not been executed on.
No, I'm not asking for, I'm not asking for a redevelopment agreement. I'm asking if the project has community development been involved or engaged in regards to doing anything with the property. And I believe the department knows exactly what we're speaking of in regards to economic analysis on the impact that it could have on the village. Have they did any work with, what's your name, sorry?
Jeff.
With Mr. E in regards to okay, so normally if they're coming to build a business or to, in Maywood, they normally, go through channels, right? And the community development department would be most certainly one of those channels to kind of help navigate this thing.
So, I guess I would say, trustee, in order for them to get to the letter of intent, in order for them to get to the presentation and make sure it falls in line with our code, the simple answer is yes. But Mr. Eden, if you'd like to.
Yeah, so there is another step right after this that Ms. Angeles has already sent me the documentation for. It's a survey basically that once I fill that out, it goes back into a packet that I believe goes back into her office, and then they begin their work on what we submitted from that point. Is that accurate?
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for the board?
I don't have a question, but I thought the presentation, thank you, Mayor. I thought the presentation was great. It was good to hear about your family's history in the community. My questions are kind of toward where Trustee Brandon was, so I'll just let that, we'll just have to do that in the closed session. But I thought the presentation was great. And you mentioned some of the, I do appreciate that you kind of get ahead of those challenges. So you probably answered most of those questions. The parking one, I'm not sure if I was completely, I practically, if I'm pulling up to, let's say, normally something like this in another town, just ginormous parking lots, and you were mentioning people 5,000 people, I was trying to see what that looked like practically in that on Madison Street, and I couldn't see it.
We don't want you to see that either. we want those cars not to actually end up on Madison, and so that is a part of what our traffic control plan will involve, which is making sure that we can keep First and Madison actually clear by doing a couple of things. Right, we can educate consumers on where to park. Right, I was a promoter for 19 years. I've done marketing for a lot of large events and festivals. But at the end of the day, we want to keep that traffic away from those main arteries by giving the consumers education on where they can park before they come to the event. And so we do several things to make sure that they can either walk to the location, which we expect about 3% of all people coming will actually walk because they're from the village of Maywood, they reside in the area. We expect a certain percentage of those people to get dropped off at an intersection, much like how the Bulls do on Madison Street. At a certain point, you can't actually drive in front of the United Center. You have to be at a drop-off point. There's a large or significant portion of people that we expect to take ride sharing, and some of this will take some education after the first couple of events, but people will learn relatively quickly because we will have traffic. The plan is to have traffic control safety measures in place for that reason. And so the reality is we're not expecting, if we say 6,600 people, that doesn't translate to 6,600 cars. What it really translates into, after you take people that have walked, take public transportation, that have taken ride share, it's only really about 55% of those people that are actually taking a vehicle. So you're talking about a little over 3,300 people. But those 3,300 people usually come in an average of 2 people per vehicle. So we're only talking really about 1,700 cars. Just between, for example, the CTA Blue Line, which already has a pay-to-park system in place. We don't have to change anything. It's less than a half mile away. We can actually provide shuttle service from there down Van Buren to Madison Street and back around. That can accommodate almost 800 cars by itself. Proviso East, in the event that we're able to negotiate with them, they have a little over 550 parking spots. There are other, privately owned lands in the area that when we do our calculation, there's well over 3,300 parking spots, of which we only need roughly 1,700 to 1,900 if our estimates for walking, public transportation, and rideshare are accurate.
Okay. I mean, I'm rooting for it. We'll see how things pan out. Obviously, you put a lot of work into it, so I just want to say thank you for that. My last question is, the mayor kind of alluded to it. So since the last meeting, you obviously invested in a presentation. What has been your investment so far in this?
About $11,000.
Okay, and that consists of?
That's just the consulting that goes into the, it's over there. It's roughly $15,000. So consulting fees, architecture, and renderings.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You should also consider the investment that Mr. Walker's doing as well.
That does include what he's invested to this point.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, board.
All right, so with the line of questions that you guys have, we're gonna redirect. So the question is just a consensus thought process. Would everybody be okay with community development and legal team to actually draft what the RDA agreement would actually look like and what all of the questions that you're trying to get answered would look like before we move forward? So at this point, it just would be a consensus of a yea or nay so that there's direction to staff of how to move forward. So would anybody be opposed to staff and legal working with the developer and his team to actually get us an actual final RDA packet that we can then review and answer the questions? Would anybody be opposed to that?
Mayor,
Trustee Brandon.
I won't be opposed to it. I would definitely, again, reiterate, just so that we are all on the same page and it's clear for everybody that's in the room, that I would like a copy of the agreement with the Cook County Land Bank as it relates to this property. And Jerusalem mentioned something to me earlier when I reminded him of that request as it relates to whatever information he found out. I would like that information as well, whatever research he found out in regards to the property. Thank you.
Attorney Jerusalem.
And I just, so everybody knows, Community Development gave me a Cook County Land Bank real estate contract that was entered into by Manager Norfleet back in 2021. It was on your agenda. So I'll get you that, I'll get you the deed, and we can all talk about it at the next meeting. There's no indication of any restrictions of resale of the property. So, just so I'm clear, I work with staff, we'll put together the typical redevelopment agreement that you've seen before for other transactions with some customization towards the type of transaction that this is. It would come back to you in May to discuss. In June, if the board's supportive in May, we would come back in June with a TIF public hearing, because this involves the sale of TIF property. Maybe we could look at a special meeting, because we gotta have notice of a TIF meeting, and you can't get to a TIF meeting without having a finalized RDA. So, let me work with staff and try to get you a schedule that moves this forward to a point where, as you know, in the past, when you sell property inside a TIF, you have to have a TIF public hearing. You have to solicit, just so you know, alternate responses, other developer, have an opportunity to sort of, submit proposals. That's part of what the TIF Act requires. Those rarely come forward. And then after you have that TIF public hearing and you run through the formality of that, if everybody is okay with that redevelopment agreement getting to that point, it could be teed up as an action item later in that same meeting, as long as you get past the TIF public hearing and you check that box. So we'll
Trustee Sanchez, are we discussing this in closed session tonight? Well, now if we're saying we're gonna consensus to do the redevelopment agreement, we would then legal and staff will put together the actual redevelopment agreement, and that is what to discuss.
And if I can clarify, the reason why we really are limited going into executive session to discuss, you can't have a free-for-all discussion of terms, conditions of a redevelopment agreement in executive session. The Open Meetings Act allows you to go into executive session to discuss the sale price of real estate, and that's it. And you know what the sale price of the real estate is based on the letter of intent. It was discussed at the last minute. It's $150,000.
Yeah, the property was assessed at $150,000.
With a credit, and they had a credit in the materials for fencing and about a $30,000 credit.
And that would be for the fence along the creek, because there's no fence along the display area right now. But, so essentially, because we already agreed to the letter of intent, the value of the property is $150, they offered $150. The next natural step is a redevelopment agreement, and then we would have discussion on that.
Yes, there was an appraisal of the property.
Yeah.
At that number, I believe. Angela, correct?
Yeah.
That was the number, right? So they're offering the appraised value.
Okay, so if there's no disagreement with that, staff will work to put together the RDA agreement, and then we will actually have discussion on defining what the RDA agreement would be, and move forward with that, working within the calendar from the presentation. Okay, all right. Next, we're going into 12 village attorney reports. One thing to note in the village attorney reports, under I, there's the TIF schedule. With the TIF schedule, we're going to stick to the April 30th meeting. That's for TIF 2 and 4.
Start time 6 o'clock and 7:30 p.m. 200 building, Sonic Temple 200 building. The other dates will be adjusted based on some housekeeping things back at a later date.
Does anybody have any questions for Attorney?
And there will be no action on those two ordinances under new business because they'll be scheduled to be adjusted. So we'll bring those two ordinances back in one day as well.
All right. Trustee Jones.
12H. Attorney, do you have any dates in mind, or how do you want to land on that?
I'd love to land on something because
I know
it's a rollover every month, and
I
I'm
know.
available.
I know, it's
I think when you sent the email, it was like either the 29th of May or like sometime in June.
So I know there's a board retreat that we were discussing, I think Ms. Banks might have mentioned in June, but this is something different. This is the attorney doing some sort of training, this is something different. Attorney, you always like you say,
This is the 2-hour, 2.5-hour training where all the boards, commissions, and boards come in. We typically do after the election. We're running a little behind schedule on that. I'm being facetious, but the bottom line is I'm available in the next 2 to 3 months. If everybody can just grab a date and agree on it, let's get into this room and let's have that orientation training session. I think it'd be good.
So Ms. Banks, can you get with the board, but then also all of the, like, historic planning commission, police and fire commission, to make sure that everybody's over with, solidified a date that everybody's most available? Trustee Brandon?
Yes, so yeah, I mean, if she's trying to get everybody on the same schedule.
I said most available.
Okay, I mean, first, you just maybe definitely start off with the whole and then go off that schedule.
Yeah.
Well, let's start with Attorney Jerusalem.
Yeah.
You give us.
I'll give us, Ms. Banks, dates that I'm available, and then if the board can drop in on those dates, then we're good.
When can we land on this? Like, can we have a date when we're gonna get back to Ms. Banks on a date with Jerusalem? I know you can probably do it this week. I don't want this to land.
I'll do it right away.
Right, so can we agree as a board that we're gonna respond to Ms. Banks by the end of April in terms of us scheduling this meeting for whatever day?
About the end of this week, when we
Okay.
get back
No,
to
I mean,
the things.
It's not that hard to get availability, right? So if we could, it's Monday. So if everybody, Ms. Banks will poll the board, Jerusalem will provide Ms. Banks the dates.
And then we'll get
Ms. Banks
this
will
on
send out her
calendar.
email. I just need everybody to respond to their email.
I'll respond.
I need everybody's response.
Right. I mean, so is everybody on the same page? Like, do they know what we're talking about? I respond.
I think it's not hard to find, it's not so hard to understand orientation.
No, I'm just, we were talking about it. Okay. I wasn't on that with you. I didn't know if we were talking about it.
All right, so we'll, Attorney Jerusalem will give Ms. Banks the dates. She'll poll the board, and she'll make sure that we have the date for orientation. Once the board's available, we'll reach out to the commissioners and focus in regards to that. All right, trustee reports none, so we're going to public hearing. Public hearing regarding the Village of Maywood fiscal year 2024-2025 budget, May 1st, 2024 through April 30th, 2025. So I need a motion to suspend regular board meeting and go into public hearing. Motion by trustee Sanchez, second.
Second.
Who's going to say second by trustee Jones? Please call the roll.
Trustee Williams,
Aye.
trustee Sanchez,
Aye.
trustee Jones,
Aye.
Lightboard, trustee Pepper,
Aye.
trustee Brandon,
Aye.
Mayor Booker,
Aye.
motion carried at 8:38.
All right, so we have the agenda going into the public hearing at 8:38 for a public hearing for fiscal year 2024-2025, budget May 1st, 2024 through April 30th, 2025. So we'll call that meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Trustee Williams.
Here.
Trustee Sanchez.
Here.
Trustee Jones.
Here.
Trustee Lightfoot. Trustee Pepper.
Here.
Trustee Brandon.
Here.
Mayor Booker.
Here.
Motion carried.
All right, and then we just have an acknowledgement of the public hearing notice that was published in the newspaper, and we'll go into floor presentation on the proposed fiscal year 2024-2025 operating budget, May 1st through 2024 through April 30th, 2025 by village manager and director of finance. You all have the binder in front of you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This is Service Energy. So in your binders and what was emailed, it's just a cover memo also of everything that's in the document. And then this presentation is just a quick overview and also so the residents can have an idea of what is proposed for the fiscal 25 budget. So the total for each of the funds over the dollar amount for each fund, but I will say that the total operating fund, if you combine each of those, is $65,361,887. And as I said, each of the funds are broken out. So our main fund that operates the daily operations is our general fund. And so the proposed budget here is $37,486,436, and this is balanced. This is what we project our revenues to be as well as our expenditures. So here is just a slide that kind of shows you the difference from the current year that we're operating in, which is fiscal 2024, and then our proposed budget, which is a difference, an increase of about $1.6 million. And as you know, the tax levy remained flat, so these additional revenues were through our ambulance and rescue fees and some additional state share revenues. So the departments in the general fund are listed here, beginning with our village clerk and ending with our human resource department. So there are some new positions that have been brought forth through this budget process. And in community engagement, we have two proposed positions, the program manager and a community engagement coordinator. And public works, in lieu of a assistant public works director, position of superintendent was brought forth, and the community development department has requested an intern. So in each of our departments, we had some attrition, so we have some replacements that I wanted to make you aware of. In the finance department, we have a payroll manager that we're looking to bring on, an accountant, and a part-time collection specialist. Each of these positions in finance are currently being staffed by temp workers, so we are looking to fill those positions in the near future, so we can, we can stop paying temp fees. In the code department, there's a request for a building inspector. Right now, this is a contractual position, and once that position is filled, then they will no longer use a contractual staff person as well. There are upwards to 18 to 20 positions in the police department that need staffing. One of them is the deputy chief, which we all know that Deputy Chief Yancey retired, and we're looking to maybe have someone caught up to speed in that department or to recruit for half of the year. So we're not looking to fill this position for the full year, which also, help during our budget considerations. We need about 4 part-time officers. We have patrol officers, about 9 of them that we need, and that's broken out into new hires and laterals. And when you look at the new hire and the lateral positions, there's differences in salaries. So when you have a new hire, they start at a much lower salary than our laterals, who's already been to training and come from different departments. So we did kind of break that up to kind of help with some savings, and also noted that these positions won't be filled May 1st either. So in our budget, we kind of did the math to say what it would be to bring a person along for 3 quarters, 4 quarters, 2 quarters, and all of that just helped impact the budget. We also need about 2 crossing guards. So as you see in your binders, I did do a staff analysis, and so it shows the staffing for the entire village and the vacancies in each of the departments. We take a look at the fire department. They're short about 2 firefighters, so we're looking to bring them on. And then lastly, in public works, they're short a laborer and 2 maintenance workers. And one of the positions was due to filling a foreman position. So that laborer who was a maintenance worker who took the foreman position, so now we're looking to backfill. We need some new vehicles and equipment, and here's a list of them here. What we also were able to do was look at lease options for some of these vehicles and look into outright purchase some of the others. So again, just being very creative and working our budget to get all of our needs met without a levy increase. So again, if we do an analysis of the funds breaking down each department where they are currently in this year's budget and what they requested in the next year's budget. You'll see the difference there and the percent change. I know that's a long list. So in my next slide, I just focused on the departments that had an increase that was 10% or greater. So you'll see, those, that slide kind of gives you a good representation. And also in your budget binder, it gives you, the actual percentages. So for example, you see the big change in like community development. And so if we look at community engagement, that's about 145% increase. If you look at something like public works, that was a 22% increase. Lands and building was a 36% increase. So those are some of the larger increases, and the dollar values are represented there as well. So MIS was one of the departments that was in the slide, and so that's what I'm focusing on here. Only departments that had a 10% increase or more, and then to kind of give you an idea of what that was for. And that slide is there. So the next department, so because it seemed like such a big increase, I wanted to actually break it down for you because that number, 145% increase, seems like a lot. But when you actually go through it, you'll see, that it's not as substantial, as that number would represent. So as you know, we mentioned that we would have the 2 new hires. We have some youth programming, and within that youth programming, we do want to make sure that, our students are safe. So we propose some security. We have the newsletter, the Maywood Fest, some community events, and village sponsorship. So all of that is now housed in community engagement, which in years past may have been a separate committee. And just to see what those community events look like, I have them listed here so you can get a sense of what those dollars are going toward. And as well as the village sponsorship. So most of these are the same that we've done over the years. I think this might be our 3rd or 4th annual Tour de Proviso. So we just wanted to make sure we got that, in the book. So that's something that we're, committing to year after year. But all of the other ones have been carried on an annual basis. So if we look at coal, they had about a 20% increase. And again, I mentioned that they were looking to hire a building inspector, and the building inspector that's listed in contractual and professional will cease to exist once they actually have a new hire. And so these are the other positions, and then there's a vehicle that's being requested. Public Works, again, was about a 22% increase, and this captures the laborer and the superintendent, as well as just the maintenance and electrical. There was some conversations on how to reduce that, but we're not there yet. Our construction and professional services and vehicles and equipment. And so if we want to break down those contractual and professional services so you can get a clear idea of what that money is going towards, I listed them here just to make it a little easier to see. And that's from tree service to thermoplastic striping, crack sealing, and deep surface pavement patching. Potholes is what that translates to. Then we have some capital projects. So these are projects that we worked with the engineer on, and we have them listed here just so you can know what to expect during this the upcoming fiscal year as you move around town. Lands and buildings represented a 36% increase, and here are the 2 maintenance workers that I mentioned that needed to be replaced, some maintenance equipment, contractual and professional services, and some vehicles and equipment. As I said, this presentation is just a high overview. You have specifics with dollar amounts for every particular item that's discussed and mentioned in this presentation. Community development was about an 11% increase, and then that was basically the result of contractual and professional services. So, you know, we talked about some municipal campus planning, property acquisition, and then the TIP planning, which is a continuation of the TIP meetings that we're currently having. And these are the agencies or the companies we work with in order to make that happen. Human resources was about a 15% increase, and it's basically employee engagement, social contractual and professional services, and those are listed here. You know, we could all use EAP assistance from time to time. Like right now, what's going on. Yeah. And then some leadership development. So that wraps up the general fund. So again, that is our daily, that's our fund that, for daily operations. And the next fund is the motor fuel tax fund. And it's allocated and used to fund road improvements, construction, and maintenance of our transportation infrastructure. So there is no difference here. The main item that's held here is the work that was done in Washington. So this is a bill that the state paid the workers, the construction team, and we're awaiting that invoice from the state to pay, you know, for that construction in Washington from like 2nd to 22nd. Recreation fund. So as you know, in the past, this has been used to help with our pool and all of our village-owned properties that we maintain. 200 building and that. And so that remained flat as well. And then our federal grant fund. So this upcoming fiscal year, we're looking at continuing our TOPS recovery program, which is in place this year currently at the same dollar value. It's a $500,000 grant, and we just break it up over several years for our maximum reimbursement. The American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, after there was some movement and some approvals a couple of meetings ago, this is what is the remaining balance, and then the RTA Access to Transit Grant. So these are our three main federal grants. The ARPA actually isn't new, but I have it listed here because we are budgeting the same of it. And so there is a difference here, which is an increase of $1.2 million. And just to recap, I'm sure you know we've been speaking a lot about ARPA lately, but just for those who may not be as familiar, this slide just helps you understand that we did need to obligate it by December of this year, 2024, and we have to spend the funds by December 2026. And here are our proposed uses. I think there's a little bit here for everyone. Right? We got some alleys in there. We got some squad cars. We have a bucket truck. We have a street sweeper. So we have some homeowners improvement, security camera program. So there's a lot, you know, to do with that $2.7 million, and we spread it out throughout the village and the departments within the village. Water and sewer garbage fund. This fund is provided to deliver the operations of water, sewer, and garbage collections to the residents of the village. And the proposed budget here is $10,189,067, which is a slight decrease from our current fiscal budget. And here again, it's just analysis because we do have our pump station in this fund, our maintenance department, and our collection. So maintenance are the gentlemen out on the street, and collection are the ladies that are in the office. Some of the highlights for the water fund are listed here with a little bit of costs associated. So because that was a big number. Just to kind of give you an idea of some, but not all of the items that will be expensed in this fund. Then we have our Madison tip. So it states the tax increment financing is a public financing method that is used as a subsidy to redevelop infrastructure and other community improvements. So we're proposing a budget of $4.5 million and some change this upcoming fiscal year, which is about a $1.9 million difference from our current operating budget. And then here is just some highlights of what that looks like. Roosevelt tip is used to do the same. It remained flat. Some of the items here are contractual and professional services, property acquisition, our business improvement program, and our curb appeal pilot phase.
We're gonna go from pilot to implementation.
Going to somebody requested use.
Yeah.
When we see how it rolls out, then it will no longer be pilot. We will know it is here to stay. It's been in this space for a minute.
Yeah, I concur.
That's up to the business owners. So, the last, fund is our state grant fund. So here we have our Strong Community Programs Grant Fund, our Rebuild Main Street grant, our Black Caucus grant, and then our Cook County ARPA grant. So, that last grant is essentially ARPA money, that Cook County gifted us. They donate it. But they gave the village, and we're using that for infrastructure as well. And just here's the difference of the proposed state grant fund, $5.6 million versus $111 that we're utilizing this year. I know I kind of went through that quickly, but again, you have all of the information in front of you. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to review it. And if there's any questions I can answer, I'm more than happy to do so.
Just belatedly thank you to the staff, thank you for the team. We can definitely see we're a safer community today, we're a cleaner community today. Public Works has been knocking it out the park, Police Department has been knocking it out the park. Building and Code has been getting more complaints for fees and fines than they ever have before, so that means they're doing their job. Community engagement has morphed into something amazing for our residents, so I thank them. But ultimately, thank you, Director Satchel, for taking the time out to work with the village manager and build the budget and make sure that we were able to do this without raising the levy.
I have a quick question.
Trustee Brandon?
This question would be, so are we thinking that as it relates to the community engagement budget, are we predicting, because I know that we've had conversations about this in the past as it relates to us just really, I guess, filling the gap, so to say, in regards to the lack of programs or the potential lack of programs as it relates to the community. Are we predicting that this is going to be a long-term ordeal as it relates to this investment in the community engagement section?
From all indications, it will. What was proposed to you were permanent employees. Currently, they're contractual, but we were looking to turn them over in May. So, I don't foresee, hiring them just to, to end their employment in the near future. But we do have a lot of initiatives, on the books ourselves. So that's why I kind of broke that out. And, as you know, each year we're getting better, and offering, more. And Ms. Banks is only one person, so in order to keep that standard up, she does need, more people, whether it's just at the Juneteenth, that's something that we just began to celebrate. If it's at the honorary street signs, if it's at the back to school, if it's at the tree lighting, there's so many initiatives that we have, and one person, isn't able to pull that off. And the past, we did have a little assistance from the park block, as we had a lot of assistance from the park. And these are our events, so if we're just gonna handle our events and they handle their events, we need more staff.
And trustee, one thing I will add to the thought process, remember this year we have the funding to focus on getting the 1100 South 11th building back up and running. So that's going to be work that needs to be done by someone. And then we also are doing the work to get the 3rd and 4th floor and working back up and running at the 200 building as well. So when you think about it from that standpoint, it's not just operating the programming. I can say that I know that the Park District has a new executive director that they brought in. I know that they brought in 3 new board members from the 3 that quit. I know that they have strategic planning sessions coming up. They've hired an auditing firm to do an audit for the last 5 years that they hadn't reported to the state. So while Ms. Banks and the new director have been engaging with each other, there's a lot of work to still be done. So I look forward to that August conversation. But for the foreseeable future, in reality, even now today, they need assistance, and they have constant communication with the assistance that they need.
Yeah, because and then the reason why I just asked is I know that people were having a conversation about this, and we were, going, like I said, revisit it in August, and I guess that August meeting will provide us with some insight on, what the future of this whole department is going to look like as it relates to staffing and things of that nature. The other question, you mentioned this, and I thought that the superintendent position was a position that already existed, and I thought that that position was under the code department, because if I'm not mistaken, the interim public works director was the superintendent, right? And then,
Correct.
Okay, so that position we could look into.
So the reason I have it placed as a new role is because we may need to tweak that. Because that position, or an additional position in Public Works, was the Assistant Public Works Director, right? So we've never been able to get that filled in about the last 10 years. So the superintendent was something that was just a choice of words, a choice of a position that we kind of talked through, because we have to be careful in what we call it, because there are certain positions that are SEIU, and then there are some positions that's not. So superintendent is just the best fit, because that's something that you've already approved as a position. But once the director actually looks at and can, work through what his needs truly are for an assistant, but not assistant public works director, maybe it's assistant to the public works director versus assistant public works director. But that's about the pay grade that we wanted it to be at.
Understood. Okay. That was my other concerns for the position manager. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
So we are in discussion of the ordinance to approving the fiscal year. So this is discussion, whether gave discussion. Now we're questions or comments from board members.
I have a few quick questions.
Trustee Jones.
Yes, I think, Mayor. I have a question, Mayor. Do you suspect the board or the village to support any initiatives as it relates to NBC Leo or something? And is that incorporated into the budget?
So are you referencing the fact that the conference is here this year?
Yeah.
So right now we are working with NBC Leo to raise their own funds with UNLC. The conference will be from June 25th to 28th. Chicago has committed a certain amount of dollars. We've also gotten a large amount of sponsors in already. So at this point, aside from our registration, as the first vice president of NBC Leo, I don't look to ask the village for funds to be expensed for that conference.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'll have similar sentiments to the mayor. Thanks, Director Satchel and Jim for putting this together. I know it's a lot of hard work. I know I asked a lot of questions, and I know I can send out some pretty, like, you know, so I can send a lot of emails out, so I appreciate that. I'll reserve some of my comments for, I do have a finance committee meeting tomorrow, where I'll kind of recap in depth some of my comments, but I just wanted to keep it brief. In terms of community engagement, so that was a discussion I had at our last finance committee meeting, and you know, I'm going to support you know, this new department and the things that we have going on. Based on the job description, we'll see how that tweaks out long term. You know, I was looking at, you know, some of the job description in terms of, you know, what it'll be doing, and as it relates to elements of a healthy, you know, Maywood, you know, that's a big part of the role, and village facilities and land program or programming, et cetera. I guess we'll see how that pans out in terms of long-term impact and what that looks like in the next years. But as of now, you know, I plan on supporting it. The one caveat that I did want to say when I think about community engagement, how I got started, I know the mayor as well and Ray in terms of like commissions and committees. And I would like to see, we put a lot of resources in our trustee committees and the documents to get that up to par. And that's supposed to be our community engagement. And I think the investment that we put in, I personally don't feel like we've gotten the return on investment out of it. And so we're putting more resources into community engagement. And I would like to really see community engagement, things like the Maywood Fest, for instance. Like I want to see an ad hoc committee, you know, of residents that's helping to, you know, support that. And I'm sure that's going to happen. But those are things that I want to see. These trustee-led committees, I would like to see those be more active and really be advising the board, and really getting residents involved in that. So that was that. I also think I saw some resources in the clerk's department in terms of block clubs. I thought that was great as well. I'm hoping that we can get on board with some of the programs that we are doing. We could utilize that block party or block club program to let the community know, hey, we got some programs for you all, we got some services, here's what's going on, and you know, we can get behind that. So I was excited to see that in the investments that we're making. So I just wanted to say, you know, there's everything I don't support, obviously, but or you might be able to tell that I'll speak on tomorrow. I did want to say, all things considered, thank you for the input and the work put into this.
Okay. Do we have any comments by the public for public comment?
No, we're seeing it.
None? Okay. Moving final questions, so then a motion to recommend approval of an ordinance approving the fiscal year 2024-2025 Village of Maywood, May 1, 2024 through April 30th, 2025. So need a motion?
So moved.
Second. So moved by Trustee Williams, second by Trustee Lightford. Please call the roll.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Sanchez?
Aye.
Trustee Jones?
Aye.
Trustee Lightfoot? Trustee Peppers?
Aye.
Trustee Brandon?
Aye.
Mayor Booker?
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, I need a motion to close out of the public hearing and return to the agenda for the April 2nd, 2024 combined meeting of the whole and village board meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Brandon, second by Trustee Lightford. Please call the roll.
Trustee Williams?
Aye.
Trustee Sanchez?
Aye.
Trustee Jones?
Aye.
Trustee Lightfoot? Trustee Peppers?
Aye.
Trustee Brandon?
Aye.
Mayor Booker?
Aye.
Motion carried, times 9-10.
All right, we are back in our general meeting. I need a motion to approve omnibus agenda items A through W. Motion. Motion by Trustee Sanchez. Need a second. Second by Trustee Lightford. Please read. Trustee Sanchez.
Give me 1 second.
Okay.
A, motion to approve the monthly financial report in the amount of $1,327,226.91. Letter B, motion to approve the warrant list number 200548 dated March 30th, 2024 in the amount of $1,727,262.05. Letter C, motion to approve repairs and remodeling of the first floor men's bathroom in Village Hall, 40 Madison Street, per low-cost proposal dated February 21st, 2024, and submitted by the F&J Dimensions in the amount of $43,000 with a bid waiver in lieu of solicitation of competitive proposals, expenditures of general funds to pay for the work, and use the village template vendor contract for goods, supplies, and services for this proposal. Letter D, motion to approve the filing and prosecution of an unsafe property debris cleanup in court abatement lawsuit relative to the property located at 841 South 15th Avenue, Maywood, Illinois. Letter E, motion to approve a change order in the amount of $4,422 with Impact Networking for purchase of 15 updated Cassell SQL server licenses and one standard Cassell server license. Letter F, a motion to waive competitive bidding and approve the purchase of a Canon GP 4600 plotter printer and Context IQ Quattro X MFP bundle with warranties, paper, and support in the total amount of $15,000. Letter G, motion to approve payment for assessment, abatement, and cleanup to Spirit Wrecking and Excavation in the amount of $18,900 paid from the Madison Street, 5th Avenue Tax Increment Financing District Fund for the preparation of demolition of structures at 1201 South 5th Avenue, 1500 South 1st Avenue, 98 Legion Street, and 1510 Madison Street, asbestos testing and removal. Letter H, ordinance approving front and rear yard setback variations for a building expansion, addition to the property at 136 South 8th Avenue, Maywood, Illinois. CXIB LLC, doing business as ABW Equipment Company, Inc. Letter I, ordinance approving the 2024 official zoning map of the Village of Maywood as incorporated into section 151.2 official plan of the Maywood Village Code. Ordinance, letter J, ordinance authorizing the creation and issuance of a Class N bar and grill liquor license for New Era Restaurant, Inc., doing business as New Era Restaurant located at 115 North 5th Avenue, Maywood, Illinois. K, ordinance approving extended hours of operation for the Class N bar and grill liquor license issued to License Grill LLC, doing business as License Grill at the 9th North 5th Avenue property. Letter L, ordinance approving change order number 2 in the amount of $489,770.44 to the construction contract between the Village of Maywood and Aqua Contractors Corp. for a new project contract price of $6,974,810.10 for the completion of the I-290 corridor storm sewer separation project. Letter M, resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an independent contractor agreement for certified responsible water operator in charge services to assist the Public Works and Water Department. Independent contractor Paul Doe, with the signed agreement attached as Exhibit 1. And resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a third-party administrative agreement between the Village of Maywood and Insurance Program Managers Group Claims Management Services, LLC, relative to the Village's General Liability, Property and Casualty Program, and Workers' Compensation Program. The term is May 1st, 2024 to May 1st, 2025. Letter O, resolution authorizing the approval and execution of amendment number 1 to the Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, between the Village of Maywood and the Regional Transportation Authority for transit-oriented development zoning code updates. Letter P, an ordinance approving extended hours of operation for the Class A1 full-service restaurant and video gaming liquor license issued to AWSB Holdings, LLC, doing business as S2 City Grill and Daiquiri Bar at 101 West Roosevelt Road. Letter Q, resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an updated Exhibit A to employee leasing agreement for interim village manager with GovTemp USA LLC for an extended 1-month term, May 3rd, 2024 to May 31st, 2024, with the option for bi-weekly term. James Kirschke with a copy of the updated Exhibit A to the agreement attached to the resolution of Exhibit 1. Letter R, motion to ratify expenses and payment thereof in the total amount of $39,173.01 for outfitting of 3 police department interceptors, Coda Auto Electronics, $23,782.05, and ABC Automotive Electronics, $15,390.96. Funding sources, general funds. See police chief memo dated April 15th, 2024, and village manager memo dated April 15th, 2024. Letter S, motion to approve bid waiver and payment of proposal estimate number 24-1852 from Wolfpack Enterprises LLC in the amount of $22,400 to install village park equipment at Lexington Standard Park, 5th in Lexington. Funding source ARPA funds from the fiscal year 2024 and fiscal 2025 annual budget. Letter T, motion to approve bid waiver and payment of proposal estimate number 24-1850 from Wolfpack Enterprises in the amount of $25,400 to install village park equipment at Baton Park, 1901 South 22nd Avenue. Funding source ARPA funds from fiscal year 2024, fiscal 2025 annual budget. U, motion to approve the bid waiver and to ratify payment of proposal quote number 165549-0901 from Game Time in the amount of $35,765.43 to install village park equipment in Waterworks Park and the purchase of the ADA required materials for multiple village parks. Funding source ARPA funds in the fiscal year 2024, fiscal 2025 annual budget. Letter B, motion to approve bid waiver and payment of proposal estimate number 1204 from Premium Contractor Services in the amount of $27,375 to install village park equipment at Top Lot Park, 415 North 4th Avenue. Funding source ARPA funds from fiscal year 2024, fiscal 2025 annual budget. W, letter W, motion to approve the rates of village-owned parks, facilities, and green spaces. Thank you.
Please call the roll.
Trustee Williams.
Aye.
Trustee Sanchez.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Lightfoot. Trustee Peppers.
Aye.
Trustee Brandon.
Aye.
Mayor Booker.
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, new business. Ordinance approving the fiscal year 2024-2025 Village of Maywood budget, May 1st, 2024 through April 30th, 2025. Need a motion?
Motion.
Motion by trustee Sanchez. We need a second.
Second.
Second by trustee Williams. No questions, please call the roll.
Trustee Williams.
Aye.
Trustee Sanchez.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Lightfoot. Trustee Peppers.
Aye.
Trustee Brandon.
Aye.
Mayor Booker.
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right. B, motion to approve the insurance renewal program for Marsh McLennan Agency for year 2024 to year 2025 in the total dollar amount of $1,453,347.
Motion approved.
Motion by trustee Sanchez, second by trustee Lightfoot. If there are no questions, please call the roll.
Trustee Williams.
Aye.
Trustee Jones. I'm sorry, trustee Sanchez.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Lightfoot. Trustee Peppers.
Aye.
Trustee Brandon.
Aye.
Mayor Booker.
Aye.
Motion carried.
C, motion to approve the Blue Cross Blue Shield HSA program proposal for 2024 to 2025 to provide the village with the option to participate in the HSA program.
Motion.
Motion by trustee Sanchez, second by trustee Lightfoot. If there are no questions, please call the roll.
Trustee Williams.
Aye.
Trustee Sanchez.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Lightfoot. Trustee Peppers.
Aye.
Trustee Brandon.
Aye.
Mayor Booker.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay. Okay. looking at the motion to approve participation in the class action settlement with respect to a lawsuit challenging the setting of credit card fees charged by Visa and MasterCard either through cessation group or through the village filing it on its own claim via class action lawsuit. So realistically, we can get this filed by staff. So if we could do a motion to approve filing by village filing on its own claim via class action settlement portal.
Mayor,
Trustee
I
Sanchez?
have a question. Are we allowed to ask questions now? Why? We don't take credit card, right? We do take credit card. So have we just recently started taking credit card?
So we've taken credit card. I mean, I paid by credit card when I first.
I paid everything cash.
That's preference.
So the request of filing the motion is not having it involved our attorney, having it directly done by staff.
Yeah, the village staff could just log into the app, class action, so that way.
It would be this other law firm that's a class action lawsuit, the Sunshine Group. It wouldn't be us. So it's either them, they're gonna charge you a fee, or for the other staff to go on the portal and do it.
So,
It's literally us logging in or them.
yeah,
One will be associated.
so you're looking for direction?
Yes.
So motion to have our staff.
All right, motion by
File.
trustee Sanchez. Need a second? Second by trustee Lightfoot. Any other questions? Please call the roll.
Trustee Williams.
Aye.
Trustee Sanchez.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Lightfoot. Trustee Peppers.
Aye.
Trustee Brandon.
Aye.
Mayor Booker.
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, so we pulled ENF before in the board meeting. So we're gonna, old business none, trustees none, for information only none. We need a motion to go into closed session.
Motion.
To discuss A, pending litigation, C, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body, and then D, the purchase or lease of real property for the use by the village.
Motion.
Motion by trustee Sanchez. Second by trustee Lightfoot. Any questions? Please call the roll.
Trustee Williams.
Aye.
Trustee Sanchez.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Lightfoot. Trustee Lightfoot. Trustee Peppers. Trustee Brandon. Mayor Booker.
Aye.
Motion carried. Time is 9:24.
Just saying congratulations to New Era on their liquor license. Looking forward to doing the grand opening soon.
Yes, I will. We will.
And thank you, KP, for being here as well in regards to handling all of our claims. I can hear you. You know, I'm a totally different company. They used to have a large contract. So thank you so much. Thank you. Everyone have a good night.
We open for, okay. So now, the liquor. Yeah.